If you want to learn from the pros and become the best Madden player possible, check out Playbook GG. Link is in the description and in the pinned comment below.
What's going on, everybody? It's EricRayweather back here, and in today's video, I'm going to be going over the basic defensive tips you need to know to improve on defense and get started in Madden. This is going to be more of the beginner to intermediate level stuff that you need to know that will take your defense from being bad to at least being able to get stops and, give people trouble. I'll have a more advanced tutorial coming shortly after this. If you are new to the channel and you want to stay up to date on the best Madden tips and news, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon so that you do not miss any of the videos. Now, what we're going to talk about first and foremost is matching personnel. Now, if you're an experienced player, an advanced player, you can kind of come out in any formation. It doesn't really matter too much for you, but for more beginner to intermediate players, you typically want to match personnel. What this means is you want to wait for the offense to pick their play before you pick your play, whether it's the computer or another opponent. It'll pop up in the bottom of the screen, how many wide receivers they have, how many tight ends they have, how many running backs they have. If you see 2 or less wide receivers, you typically want to stick in something like a 4-3 formation, a 4-6 if you have it, or if you're in a 3-4 based playbook, instead of a 4-3 formation, you would have the 3-4 sets instead. You want to stick in those because they're more early down type of formations where they can defend the run, but if you only have a couple wide receivers on the field, you have enough cornerbacks on the field to match those wide receivers. Kind of, like I said, early down, run pass, you're not really sure. That's what you want to stick in. If you see them come out in 3 receivers or more, you want to at least be in a nickel or higher, because a nickel is going to have 3 cornerbacks on the field. If you see them come out in 4 wide receivers or more, you're going to want to be in a dime defense or higher, because you're going to have at least 4 cornerbacks on the field. Same with dollar. Dollar will give you 4 cornerbacks on the field as well. The only difference from dime is instead of having 4 D linemen and 1 linebacker, the dollar formation is going to have 3 D linemen and 2 linebackers. And then if they come out in 5 wide receivers or more, you might want to go to a quarter set. Now, this doesn't mean that, okay, if you see 3 wide receivers, you have to pick nickel, but you want to at least pick nickel. But maybe you're going up against the Chiefs, right? And their tight end is Travis Kelce, that's essentially like having a 4th wide receiver on the field. So you might want to go to a dime or a dollar instead, because you'd rather that cornerback matched up on Kelce, because you know that a linebacker on Kelce is a huge mismatch. So that's what you want to do, basically, because if someone's coming out in 3 wide receivers, you don't want to come out in a 3-4 or a 4-3, especially if you're playing man defense more so than zone, because then that means you're going to have a linebacker matched up on a guy like Keenan Allen in the slot, maybe, or Michael Thomas in the slot. That's a mismatch. You don't want that. You want to match speed for speed, athleticism for athleticism. That's why you want to make sure if they have 3 receivers, you want 3 cornerbacks. 4 receivers, you want 4 cornerbacks. That's just a very basic practice to use. Now, next thing I want to do is talk about some basic adjustments that you need to know how to make. I'm not going to talk about all the adjustments, but just the basic ones that, can literally win and lose you games. The first is going to be QB spies and QB contains, because a lot of people in Madden like to use fast quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, whoever, it may be. Now, Phillip Rivers, of course, isn't fast, but even with Phillip Rivers, if the defensive line doesn't get an instant block shed, I can scramble out with Phillip Rivers, and look, we got like 9 yards with Phillip Rivers and I slid, and he's like 50 speed. So imagine if that was Lamar Jackson. So this is why you need to know how to put QB spies on the field. You want to take one of your faster linebackers, so we'll use Miles Jack. You want to get on him. You press the A or X button, A on Xbox, X on PlayStation, and it'll bring your adjustments up. And you can see you can put him in a man, you can blitz him, you can put him in zones, but we want to put him in a QB spy, which is left on the right stick. You do want to play around with these other zone coverages and kind of get used to changing coverages up sometimes. That can be helpful, but for this purpose, we want to show QB spy. So now we have him in a spy. So now what's going to happen is, if I try to scramble out of this pocket, he is going to follow me. You see that? You see how he's following me? Now the lineman got to me there too. And now you see what I did there? I rushed him in. Now, let's not pay attention to the defensive lineman there. That was great that the lineman got the block shed and kind of, slowed me down. But let's just pretend that part didn't happen. Just watch Miles Jack. Watch how he follows Phillip Rivers. He's going to stay with Phillip Rivers the entire way. Now, the thing is, when you scramble outside this pocket, what your opponent's going to do is one of 2 things. He's going to be stubborn and either keep running, in which case Miles Jack is going to follow him. He's going to tackle him, maybe lay a big hit, cause a fumble. That's not what you want to do. A smarter player will see that he's spied, and he'll do what I did with Rivers here. He'll kind of set his feet and look downfield to try to pass. Now, if you press the right joystick down, you click it down, that's going to tell the QB spy to rush the passer now. Now, what this does is now you're forcing the opponent to have to make a quick throw. He might panic or he might take the sack. Now, when you get better with this, it's hard for me to do because I'm using 2 controllers, but if you got a guy in a spy and you see the quarterback get to like this point right here, you could click the joystick down right here, and then what's going to happen is that the spy is going to continue to follow Rivers, but it's going to crash down and rush him at the same time. And what happens is a lot of times people don't see it until it's too late. So right when you get outside the pocket, he's right in your face, and that causes panic throws or sacks. So that's very important to know. The other adjustment will be QP containing. If you don't want to use a spy, you could use contains. You do this by pressing LB or L1, and then you press the RB or R1 button. Now your outside defensive ends are going to be in contain, and what happens here is if you try to go outside the pocket at all, they disengage and it's an instant sack. Now you're saying, well, why wouldn't you just use that every time then? Because there are pros and cons. When you have contains on the field, their defense is going to be a little bit weaker versus the run. So if someone happens to run an inside zone here with those contains there, they're not going to be good run defenders. Also, if an opponent is smart and they see that you're containing, they're just going to stand still in the pocket, and your pass rush isn't going to be as good because those outside guys are more focused on containing the edge than aggressively rushing the passer. So there are pros and cons to each, so you have to just figure out which one works best for you. Another important adjustment that I want to talk about is manning up somebody, because you might want to just put some extra coverage on somebody. Let's say Hunter Henry in the flat, but he could be on any type of route. Let's say, maybe the person throws to Hunter Henry a lot, or their tight end a lot, and he's a fast tight end. So I say, you know what, I want to commit some extra coverage to him. I can get on a player, let's say this player. I press A or X, and then your adjustments come up. You can see man coverage is up on the right stick, and then I select Hunter Henry's icon. Now he's manned up. Because I just want a little bit of extra coverage. I want to make sure, I'm in zone, but I want to make sure that I always have somebody following Hunter Henry, because let's just say the opponent throws to him all the time. And then sometimes people predetermine their reads, they quick throw it. That should have been a pick 6, but we still got the swat. It was still a win for the defense. It's just good to sometimes know how to put that extra coverage on somebody. Now, the other adjustment I want to talk about here that's really important is shading your defense, specifically shading down. Now, if you press Y or triangle, you have tons of assignments you can do with your defense, right? Like you could back your defense up, which is up on the left stick. This is like, okay, right before halftime, you don't want to let up a bomb, or the end of the game, you want to just call your defense back them up. Y or triangle down on the left stick, you can press your defense. Typically, you do this in man coverage because you want to bump the receivers. You can do stuff like that, but what I want to show is shading down. So notice in cover 3 here, we have these purple zones on the field. If I press Y or triangle and down on the right stick, they turn into flat zones. They're going to play in the hard flat, and then also these linebackers, they're going to play kind of more aggressively too on anything that comes underneath. So I'm going to show you why this is important. So I'm going to go back to the regular cover 3 here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to throw some drag routes here to Hunter Henry. We're just going to go back, we're abusing Hunter Henry, right? And people hate drag routes. Like, I can't stop drag routes. Throw to Hunter Henry. 8 yards, very easily. You can do that every time if you don't shade your zone defense down. And if it's man defense and you have a good tight end, usually they'll outrun the man. So again, regular cover 3, drag route, up the field, 7-8 yards. You're moving the chains every 2 plays. People hate drag routes. Shade your defense down. I like to do this in a cover 3 or a cover 4. I don't do it in cover 2 because you kind of expose yourself to too many deep routes beating you in a cover 2. But with a cover 3 and a cover 4, you have a lot of deep zones on the field, so you still don't get burned deep. So now I've shaded down my cover 3, and now we're going to notice an entire world of difference for the Mr. Drag route that people absolutely hate. We try to throw the drag route now. Now, luckily, he still got about 4 yards there because he got a good animation. He fell forward. But notice the difference there. We have no run after the catch potential. And if I throw this a couple more times, you're going to see just how locked up it is. The linebacker comes down. This guy comes down. Boom. We got about 1 yard there. Sometimes they'll even jump that for a pick because we're telling the defense to play aggressive now. Same thing for the flats. So if I shade my defense down, and I'm like, people like to throw quick flats too. Like, I want to throw a quick flat here to Hunter Henry. He's all over it. Again, got his hand on the ball. Could have potentially pick 6 that. Shading your defense down is very important, and it's something I do pretty much every time I'm in a cover 3. If I'm in a cover 3 or a cover 4, I shade down because my philosophy is I want to make you hold the ball a little bit longer. I don't want to let you just dink and dunk me for 5 yards, 4 to 5 yards of play. I want to make you hold the ball a second and a half longer, especially this year because the pass rush is so much better this year. If I can take away those quick reads and make you have to hold the ball for an extra second, I'm going to probably get a sack half of the time. So I want to make sure that happens. But again, I wouldn't do it in a cover 3 or like a I mean, not a cover 3, excuse me, a cover 2, because you just get exposed too deep down the sideline if you do that. Now, the last adjustment I want to talk about is base aligning your defense, because this is how you can disguise your defense. Notice how we have this guy sitting at the top of the screen here. This is a dead giveaway that we're either in a cover 3 or a cover 1 man. And as you're playing opponents all game long, you can kind of figure out their style. Like if they call cover 3 a lot, then you just know they're in a cover 3 when you see that one high safety. Now, if I go to a cover 2, now notice how the safeties go to the top of the screen. We have 2 high safeties. This means the defense is either in a cover 2, a 2-man under, or a cover 4. So you see here, if I audible to the cover 2-man, 2-man under, safeties still stay at the top of the screen. Now we're going to go back to the cover 3. When you base align your defense, it makes your defense align the same way every time. 2 high safeties, everybody kind of just squared up. You do this by pressing wire triangle and then right on the left stick. So now look, we're in a cover 3, but now we still have the 2 high safeties. And it doesn't matter what coverage we do, as long as we base align, it's going to always line up the same way, so that it's never going to be a dead giveaway to your opponent which coverage you're in. Now, you can actually do this from the play call screen now. You can go to your coach adjustments, you can go to alignment, and you could set it to base. That is a new feature this year. So your coverage will automatically base align when you break the huddle every play. You won't have to manually do it. So that's something you want to get familiar with, because it's just going to help you disguise what kind of coverage you're running on defense. Now, another important thing I want to talk about here is the actual coverages themselves. So the main coverages you're going to usually want to run are a cover 2 man, a cover 2 zone, cover 3, and cover 4. Now, like I said, when I run cover 3, I like to always shade it down. That's just how I run a base cover 3. That's the best way to run it in my opinion. Cover 2 is typically very good for keeping everything in front of it, like making people have to dink and dunk. The problem this year is the cloud flats aren't very good. The cloud flats allow things to get over their head too easily this year. So you can run a cover 2, but if you're playing an experienced player, someone that really knows what they're doing, they're going to probably abuse those cloud flats. So it's kind of more of a like per opponent basis. If you're playing someone that isn't like super advanced, you can still run a cover 2. You're going to kind of keep everything in front of you, and like the idea is you want to rally to the ball when they catch it for 4 or 5 yards underneath. Come down, lay a big hit, force them to drop the ball, maybe force a fumble, or you just force them to take more plays to score and bank on them making a mistake. Cover 2 man is actually really good this year. You know, you don't want to, I wouldn't still spam it, but there are still some routes that could absolutely destroy it. But cover 2 man, I think man is actually better than zone this year. So I'm using man like on half of my play calls, and they do a really good job this year. And then, you know, sometimes you might want to use or defend one of these deep safeties. It just depends on the personnel. Like, typically, okay, Travis Benjamin's a fast receiver, so I would want to leave this deep zone back here just in case he goes deep. But I have Jalen Ramsey on him, so I can trust Jalen Ramsey one-on-one with a guy of Travis Benjamin's caliber. So maybe I decide to bring this safety down, and I kind of want to just sit over the middle and give some extra support over the middle, right? But, you know, let's just say that wasn't Jalen Ramsey. Let's say that was just an average cornerback, but maybe instead of Benjamin over there, that was Mike Williams. Mike Williams isn't very fast. So I could still take this guy away and say, well, I don't really have to be afraid of Mike Williams. He might have decent route running, but he's probably not going to burn me over the top. So I might take this guy down and use him. Those are the little things you want to pay attention to. And lastly, when it comes to cover 4, something that is really important to note is that a lot of formations now, they have what's called cover 4 quarters, and they have what's called cover 4 palms. These look like zone defenses, but they actually play man at a certain point. The safeties and the cornerbacks will man up. So I recommend not running these unless you know the principles of the coverage, which are pretty complex. I don't even run them because you can really get burned for one play touchdowns if you don't know what you're doing with this. You want to make sure you're using a cover 4 that says cover 4 drop. It has to have the word drop in it because that means it's going to be a spot drop, zone cover 4, nothing's going to man up. But if you don't have that in your formation and all you have is a cover 4 quarters or a cover 4 palms, there's a way to get around them playing man defense if you want to run a actual cover 4 look. So just find just a quick formation here, and what we're gonna do is you want to protect the sticks. So you press wire triangle, and then you see sticks is LB because I'm on Xbox. If you're on PlayStation, it would be L1. This is gonna turn it into just a spot drop zone coverage, and then from there I would shade down just like I did with cover 3, which is wire triangle down on the right stick, because again, I want to defend those hard flats. Now I'm base aligning. it lines everything up. It also, what base aligning can do is, it, like you saw how it got all these guys in the box, so it can help against the run a little bit. If you're expecting inside shotgun runs or things like that, kind of brings everybody in the box and centers it up. The only thing that base aligning can hurt you with is someone's like running a screen play to the outside, because you don't have enough defenders out there. So you just have to pay attention to what your opponents are doing. But that's how you would want to run a cover 4. And the good thing about a cover 4 as a base defense is it's a decent against the run, because the safeties, they're in run fits. So that means they watch for the run before they immediately start dropping back, and then, you know, they'll kind of crash down and play the run. So a cover 4 is actually, that's just like a little extra tip. If you want to, like, on early downs out of like 4-3 or 3-4, come out in a cover 4, you'll do a pretty good job at containing both the run and the pass out of that. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is just user defending a linebacker. And you don't have to shut down the whole field with this, but you want to at least be able to use her a little bit, because like right here, if I want, I could just throw this route to Melvin Gordon all day. If I don't use her, I mean, I'll get 5+ yards no matter which coverage I put on it. You know, that was a zone coverage. If I want to go to a man coverage, it's going to be the same thing. He'll cook the man defender even more, as you see. Like, you could throw this all day long. That's why you don't ever want to use the D-line, because if you're playing anyone that's halfway decent, they're going to destroy you. If you just sit on a line, all you have to do is just sit on a route. Just sit on it. You don't have to be great. Just say, okay, I know you want to throw this every play, so I'm going to sit on it, and then you make the guy hold the ball, and he's going to get sacked. That's the very basic level of usering that you need to be able to do. You don't need to shoot all over the field and have to shut down multiple routes, but you have to be able to say, okay, I know you want to just throw this, so I'm not going to let you. I'm going to just sit in front of it, and if you throw it to me, I'm going to swat it or try to press the interception button, which is wire triangle. And you make them hold the ball just a little bit longer, because they're like, damn, I can't go to the route I wanted to go to, and then boom, you get sacked. You have to be able to do that. It is very, you know, it's scary at first, but you really have to be able to get comfortable with that, because if not, someone could just hit you with the same route every single play down the field, and there's nothing you can do about it if you're on the D-line. You're helpless against it. The AI will not jump it for you typically, so you need to be able to say, hey, I know you want to throw this every time again and again because you've done it to me a bunch of times. I'm just going to sit right on it now, right underneath it, and I'm going to make you have to go, at least go somewhere else. And just that one little thing will win you so many more games, you would be amazed, because you're just not giving someone the easy way out. So those are the basic tips you need to know, Defense 101 for Madden. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you did, as always, you know the drill. Just like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.